What's up everybody, Fritz here. Did you install an Android screen on your BMW or you're thinking about getting one, but you're not sure about what all the settings do and what the full potential is? Well, in today's video, we're going to go over all of the Android screen settings that you could have in your BMW. Let's get into the video. Apologies for not making this video sooner. I just wanted to make sure that I had enough time with this unit to make a video like this because there are a ton of features and a ton of settings that, depending on which BMW that you have, you might not utilize all of them because some of the features BMW actually does really good right out of the gate. Now, that's not to say that those of you who have the maxed spec'd out BMW won't benefit from a system like this, because there is something to be said about an Android screen that allows you to download apps such as navigation apps that will give you a real-time view of what traffic is on your route. This is going to be even more important for those of you who don't have Bluetooth phone options such as music or calling in your car. You're going to definitely benefit from having a screen like this. And as always, if you're somebody who can install this screen or somebody who needs help installing this screen, please let us know down in the comment section below where you're from and if you need help or if you can give help. Now, with that said, there is a ton of features and settings that we are going to cover in this video. So make sure to hit the chapter button down below. That way you can jump right to the part that you need help on. Or if there's something that I left out, please leave a comment with a timestamp and say, hey, can you elaborate a little bit more on this? And I'll make a follow-up video doing just that. So let's jump right into the video. When we start up the car, you're gonna notice that the iDrive system starts up as normal. This is gonna be completely unfazed by the installation of the Android system. All that we're doing is adding an additional feature to the BMW. If you're coming from the 6.6 inch screen and you're going to the 10.25 inch screen, other than enlarging and expanding the screen, nothing changes on the iDrive system at all. However, when you're going over to the Android system, it takes about 5 minutes for it to start up. It's essentially taking an Android tablet, turning it off every single time, and then starting it back up when you start the car. Now, there are some exceptions here. Say if you're going to the store or you're picking something up or dropping something off, that's gonna take you less than 5 minutes. Because there's still power circulating through the car, the Android system is still actually running in the background. Not until the car completely loses all residual power that the Android system powers down. But once that 5 minutes is up, you can either access the Android system by holding down the menu button, and it'll take you to this screen, or you can anywhere on the screen, just give it a touch and we'll take you over to the system. Now, what we're first gonna do is go over these side menus over here, and then we'll go over these lateral cards over here. And the thing to know about all of these side menus over here is that they're defaulted to whatever system that you set as a default. Now, there are default apps that come on this screen when you first get it, but you can always download the apps that you want in order to take over the controls and then set them to default later on. But music, it will just take you into the default music player, and you can either preload music onto the actual screen because it has a little bit of memory, or you can put in an SD card and play music off of the SD card from there. Going back, we can go into our navigation, and I've set my navigation to Waze, but there is a default app here, and you can also set this as something else like Google Maps if that's your preference. Getting out of that, we're actually going to skip the settings for right now and get into car info. This is just gonna take us back to the iDrive system. So we can go ahead and give that a tap. And lastly, we have our apps. And this is gonna be your full suite of apps that you have downloaded. Now, getting into the settings portion, this is where you can change those apps to whatever app that you want as a default, as we mentioned earlier. So the navigation we have as Waze, but we also have some other options here as well. Language, it's going to come in English, and if you want to change it to something else, you can. Next, we have time. And what I've noticed is that the original time, it's linked to the Android system. So if you go into the inner settings of the Android system and you select your region, if you do daylight savings time, this is what will sync to set your time up here. This actually syncs up to the GPS satellites in your area because you have that GPS receiver that's installed in your kit with the screen. That's how it will tell what time it is. It takes a little bit longer while you're driving, so if you don't mind, I think that this is just an easier system to adopt versus the original time. Now that's not to say that I wouldn't change the inner Android settings to my region. I would also do that, but as far as the time, this is gonna be the most accurate, because what I noticed with the original time is that if you are in an area that does utilize daylight savings time, what's gonna happen is it won't necessarily push the hour forward or backward right away. It lags a little bit for a few days or so, and then it catches up. You can also change if you want to go to the 24-hour timeline or the 12-hour timeline. And as a side note, if you see some scratches on the screen, that's actually not me scratching up the screen. That's actually the protective film that comes on most screen devices. I just didn't take it off because I haven't found a screen protector that will actually fit this just yet. Next, we have audio, and we'll get to these settings in just a second. But if we scroll down, these sound settings such as the bass, the mid, and the treble, and the type of preset that you want for your sound to come in, these are all gonna work just fine, and you can set this to whatever you prefer. But what I've noticed is that the Android display volume and factory radio volume aren't necessarily what they say they are. So none of these volume controls will affect anything on the iDrive system, with the exception to the AUX setting in your audio setting. But we'll talk about that later. Just put it in the back of your mind that these audio settings will not affect anything on the iDrive system. They only affect sound that's coming through the Android system. And what I also noticed is that the GPS volume does not actually manipulate the GPS volume. It's actually the call volume for me on this screen that changes the GPS volume. So you're gonna have to play around with it and see which one works. Hopefully your manufacturer has these controls accurately depicted, and then you can just change it. So in all honesty, this should be controlling the volume for my Waze. This should be controlling the call volume if I opted to use the Android system for my calls, but I still use the iDrive system to manage my phone calls. This actually does manage the Spotify that's coming directly from the Android head unit. So you can actually play music from Spotify and have it come in through the car if your car doesn't have Bluetooth. That's gonna be fine, and this one doesn't do anything, or I haven't figured out what it is yet. So just know that you might have to play around with it to figure out which one of these levels toggles what. Additional settings that you could have is if you have another camera setup, like a front-facing camera, you can set that up here. Your rear camera, you can either select a 360 camera, the original camera if you're using the OEM system, or if you didn't have a backup camera from BMW, you're gonna have to select Aftermarket camera. That way when you put the car in reverse, it will activate the correct camera. You can also adjust your brightness here at the bottom. Let's go into the factory setup last, because you actually do need a code for this. From here, we can go into the more settings, and this is gonna look more like a traditional Android system setup. So if you have an Android tablet or if you have an Android phone, this is gonna look very familiar to you. Here, your networking connections. This is where you can set up the mobile hotspot from your phone to work as the Wi-Fi for the Android screen. Because there is no built-in Wi-Fi, you will have to use an alternative network in order to get something like traffic updates from your navigation system, or if you're accessing something like YouTube or your email, you're going to need some sort of network connection. Apps and notifications, this is going to be the standard. Do you want certain apps to notify you or have access on the screen? Sound, you can go ahead and set up the sound for the Android system, but I found that these actually don't do anything. But if for some reason those volume settings that we talked about earlier don't work out for you, maybe these will. Storage, so you can see that here we actually have 20 gigs of space in the actual Android screen. And then you can add an SD card on top of that. You'll also have some security functions as far as, do you want Google to know your location? And for that, you're just gonna wanna say yes, otherwise you won't be able to use the navigation system. Your accounts, this is where you can set up the accounts that are going to be associated with your Google account. And this is something that I would suggest that you do, because the cool thing about an app like Waze is that if you're on your phone and you select your destination and you say, hey, I want to get there in 20 minutes from now. So you're going to leave your destination in 20 minutes. Waze actually syncs up to its own cloud server. And if you're connected to Waze on your Android screen by your Google account. Then when you go into Waze, it will know that you want to go to that destination. You won't have to re-enter that address on the Android screen. System, this is where I mentioned that you could set up things like your time, as well as the different keyboards that you would want to use. You also have some other advanced features here as well. And you can check to see if there is an update available. You might just want to do that when you first get the screen. That way you have the most up-to-date version. Getting back out of this, lastly, we have system info. And this is something that you don't really want to touch unless the manufacturer of the screen gives you specific instructions to. Getting back to the factory setup that we mentioned earlier, each password is going to be different. Now, if you have the COAS on screen, such as I do, then your password is going to be 2018. Each manufacturer has its own password, and they should give it to you upon arrival of your unit. If not, just send them a message and ask them what the password is. Here, you can change all the settings so that you can optimize the screen to work with your BMW. I did not have the Harman system. I just had the regular system in my car. This I don't know because I don't use the DVD or the video in motion. Same thing, I don't use this setting as well. And here, you can change it if you're going from the OEM to an external amplifier. Like if you went to the BAV sound one, you could do that here. AUX switching mode. This is going to be important for those of you who had to use the aux and connect it from the actual unit to the aux connection underneath the armrest. If you had to do that, switch over to the automatic switching system, not the manual. I selected this one because I did not need to use the aux. Therefore, I don't want the Android system to switch over to the aux connection without me wanting it to. And since I don't have that connection, there's no reason for it to switch over to that. But if you go over to the automatic switching, this is where the certain parts of the Android system that come in through the aux, such as the Waze navigation sound, or if you play Spotify off of this unit, it will then use the aux connection to play that sound through your BMW speaker. You also have DVR. I turn mine off because I don't do that. Bluetooth. This is going to be important for those of you who wanted the additional function of Bluetooth music in your car. If you have the original Bluetooth feature in your car, in my opinion, this is better than running it off the Android system. If you have Bluetooth music in your car, just do the original Bluetooth and play it that way. It's a lot faster. It pretty much, as soon as you get in the car, it will pick up the Bluetooth signal from your phone and play your music. You don't have to wait that 5 minutes. But if you don't have Bluetooth in your car and you wanted that as a functionality when you got this screen, switch over to the ARM Bluetooth. Now, ARM Bluetooth is the proprietary name of this manufacturer. So if you get this from a different distributor, you may have something else here that's not ARM and then Bluetooth. So it's just gonna say original Bluetooth and then something Bluetooth. If you don't have Bluetooth, select this one. And this is just asking if you wanted to give the Google App Store permission to download and put apps into the screen. This is for people with only an X1. The Bluetooth module is just the Bluetooth that's installed on the system in order to be the most compatible with your car. The iDrive type that we have here is just the different type of display that you would like to have when you start up the Android side. The DVD software, it's only if you want the video in motion. These are just options if you want on or off, pretty much straightforward. This is only if you have the Mercedes-Benz, so you can just ignore that. And I'll be honest, I don't know what these two are. The AUX activation function, if you don't have the AUX connected, turn it off. If you have the AUX connected, turn it on. This right here, the voice key function, this is going to be where you can change the steering wheel buttons to a different operation on the Android side. You can select what you want here. You have the different type of camera setup that you have, and this is based off the connection that you have. If you're using the OEM camera, this doesn't matter. But if you're going to aftermarket backup camera, this will actually matter for the type of connection that you have. The backlight controlled, I found that this is useful. This is if you turn on your headlights, your screen gets dimmer. And then if your headlights are off, the screen is brighter. And this is a useful function. This right here refers to the mode button on your steering wheel. You can either have it on to control something on the Android side or not. And actually, I don't want it on because I like my mode button on my steering wheel to control my iDrive functions. For me to go between the radio, my Bluetooth, and my aux, that's what I want. I don't know what these two are, I don't use them. The auxiliary radar status, I don't use either. This just controls the brightness of the screen, and then if you have your headlights on or off, it will either keep it at the standard brightness or it will turn it down. If you're using the OEM camera, this doesn't matter, but if your camera has a certain resolution and frame rate value, you will want to adjust this. And this is asking if you want to use the Android navigation or the original car navigation. So if you don't have navigation on your car, obviously go with the Android navigation. If you prefer the BMW navigation and your car has it, then you can select it. And this is asking if you want to change the default aux. So this is what I was referring to earlier, where if you do something like Spotify and you play it through the Android screen, you're gonna have to go to the aux setting in your iDrive system in order for it to play. We have to go to the multimedia section of the iDrive. Here, we're gonna go down to external devices and select the aux front. And it's under this setting, which if you pass any audio through the Android side, with the exception to navigation, it will pass through here. And you have to be in this setting in order for that audio to come through. Now you can adjust this volume independently from the radio volume knob. And you just have to press in with the iDrive knob and you select the volume. And it goes pretty high all the way to 20 and all the way down to 0. If you remembered those settings that I had for my volume earlier, I found having it at 5 is just right. Going into the advanced setting, this is just asking what type of iDrive system that you want to have start up on the Android side. Right now it's doing that iDrive 7 with those tiles that we were talking about earlier. Audi is unapplicable. This is actually something specific to the manufacturer. So if there's something that's going on with your screen and you need to troubleshoot and the manufacturer is walking you through it, they may have you toggle between these two options. Boot logo, pretty straightforward. Here, updating the APK list. This is what I was referring to earlier when I mentioned that you can actually download apps that are not available through the App Store in order to have them on your screen, such as the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto feature. If you are looking for that, go ahead and hit the info card in the top right-hand screen and watch that video in order to download the APK and run it on your screen. Car type. This is going to be important if you are actually changing the screen size. So I originally had the 6.5 inch screen and I wanted to upgrade it to the 8.8 or 10.25 inch screen in order to have that full screen and not the split screen version. You may not see your car model here. Just make sure to select the screen that you coded your car for. So if you haven't coded your car yet and you had the 6.5 inch screen, go ahead and select 6.5. If you've gone through BIMR code and coded your car, then you can select the 8.8 or 10.25. And if you need further instructions on how to actually go in the inner settings of your BMW and change the coding so that your car thinks that it had the 8.8 or 10.25 inch screen, then you're going to want to watch the video in the top right hand corner and it will walk you through step by step in how to do that. Batch APK installation. This is something that I wouldn't suggest that you touch. If you need to go through the APK settings, just do them one by one. Upgrade factory settings. This is also something that is going to be something that you don't want to touch unless it comes straight from the manufacturer of your screen. They do have specific softwares that are unique to your own screen and a specific set of directions that you'll need to follow in order to upgrade your screen. Moving on down to our vehicle information settings. This is where you could set whether or not you have a left or right hand drive. You also have your door display and maximum speed, which is in reference to the car display dashboard that we'll get into when we talk about the tiles. The TV out is in reference to the DVR in motion. The mode memory, this is in reference to the mode button on the steering wheel, whether you want that on or off. And daylight savings time, you can turn this on or off depending on where you're located at. HDMI output, this is again for the DVR in motion. learning touch buttons. This is for us to basically remap certain buttons, such as the ones on the steering wheel, as well as the ones on the radio, to control certain aspects of the DVR in motion. These are just some of the options that you can have in order to remap certain buttons for certain DVR functions. And now that we have all of that set, let's go ahead and look at these tiles. And these are just gonna be, let's say, a mimicking of the BMW iDrive system. Let's just go over it really quickly, and then I'll show you what I prefer afterwards. Navigation is gonna take you to your default maps. I should also include that if you upgrade to a 7-button iDrive system like I did, when you hit the navigation button, it will trigger your maps to come up. And for this video, hit the link in the top right-hand corner. But this can be a little bit tricky, so make sure to read the first pinned comment in that video. Bluetooth. This is actually going to take us over to the iDrive system because I did select the OEM Bluetooth. But if we go back into our settings and we select ARM Bluetooth, when we hit Bluetooth, we get this menu over here. So this is going to be useful for those of you who want to use the Bluetooth from your phone to play music on and through the Android screen. This is where you would use your phone to search the Bluetooth connections in the area, look for that name, enter that passcode, and then you'll get a pop-up menu over here. You'll hit connect and your phone will now be connected to the Android screen. But as I mentioned before, if you have Bluetooth music on your BMW, it's actually better. And this also goes for the phone setting as well. The phone calls, because of the placement of the microphone, is a whole lot better on the OEM system. The microphone is actually back here on the Android screen, so it's very poorly placed and it picks up a lot of the road and wind noise. The microphone in the BMWs are located just above and to the left of the driver, and it's actually a better placement and is actually protected because it has a little foam padding on it that protects it from the wind noise and road noise. If you have the original BMW system for calls and music, that's the best way to go. But if you don't have music, this is where you can set up your default music player. You could set up DVR, so you could preload movies on here, or you could put them on your SD card and play it here as well. Car info will take you back to the iDrive system. The dashboard will just give you this layout of the BMW and some things like how much fuel you have left, the temp, if your doors are open or not. It's a nice little feature, but not something that I really use. Now, going back to what I mentioned earlier, my preference actually is not this screen. I don't really like it. So what I opted to do was go into the settings, go into my apps, and under default apps, I actually changed it. So I don't like the home app launcher. I've tried Apollo launcher, it's pretty good, but I actually found that Nova launcher is better. And here I have my apps that I need very close to me, so if I need to touch it, there it is. My calendar, as well as the time here in a bigger format than up there. This is actually what I use, and it's pretty similar to the Android Auto layout that the newer BMWs have. If you want to know how I set this up, click the video link that's showing up right now, and it uses an Apollo launcher as the example, but I would really recommend that you give Nova launcher a try as well. And just like that, we've gone over the entire suite of settings and features that you could have in your BMW with this Android screen. But this is a very dense topic, and I'm sure I didn't go over everything or go over everything in detail. So if there's something that I missed out on, please let me know down in the comment section below. And if you're looking to pick up your own Android screen, it's going to be in the description links down below. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on those follow-up videos, and I'll see all of you in the next one.